Welcome to All Home Care Matters, the show where we discuss all things home care, with discussions on important age-related matters and topics. Brought to you by Enriched Life Home Care Services, the #1 rated home care provider in Michigan by Top Rated Local.
Hello and welcome back to All Home Care Matters. If this is your first time visiting us here at the show, we want to say thank you for taking time out to be with us today. We appreciate how valuable everyone's time is, and that's why we try and make each episode here at All Home Care Matters something that will hopefully matter to you. Today, we are honored to welcome Stephanie Ford. Stephanie is the founder of Life Stories with Steph. Welcome, Stephanie. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm doing well.
Wonderful. I want to kind of start though. I introduced you as the founder of Life Stories with Steph. Why don't you just kind of take us back to the back then, back to the beginning. And first, let's start with what is Life Stories with Steph? And then what inspired you to start Life Stories with Steph? And how did your background, because you were a caregiver, really help shape the work that you're doing today?
Oh, such a big question, but so much.
Yeah.
So, caregiving has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. So, I had a mother who had polio as a child. And so, I think early on, I just saw this need for recognizing people who were struggling or had disabilities. And so, I think that was always at the forefront of my mind. But about 12 years ago, I really got into caregiving full time. And it was just through my time with that I met the most amazing people. And I think that's what I love so much about caregiving is just that you get the one-on-one time for long periods of time. So I would have 12-hour shifts, I would have 24-hour shifts. And so it just gives you that time to sit with someone in their story. And I think you recognize over that time of just how amazing people truly are. And they don't even know it. So you'll be sitting with someone and they're just talking about their life and you think, what? You've done what? And so I think for me, that's kind of how it all started is over the years of meeting with so many people and just realizing, oh, this is where truth really lies. This is what matters is in these one-on-one conversations with the people you just wouldn't even expect have these most incredible stories. So I think that's really where it started for me. I lived in China for 5 years, and that helped a lot in understanding we're part of a big world and everybody has a story. And, I was given the opportunity to work, to volunteer in the orphanage over there and just seeing the children and the babies and just recognizing that, oh my word, we all have a story. And so that's kind of what started this process of how can I record these stories of these people whom I've had to say goodbye to for now and let the world know how amazing they truly are. And it truly is. It's in those everyday people that I have found.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when you describe, Life Stories with Steph, what's your elevator pitch? How do you concisely share what it is so people really understand?
Yeah, I absolutely have a passion for recording stories. And I think that does come from a lifetime of having a mother who was a master genealogist.
Oh.
And so she spent her life's work preserving the stories of our ancestors, preserving the stories of our family. And I don't think I appreciated it so much at the time as she was working on it, but she's been gone for 12 years now. And I think it's looking back at these stories that I think, oh, thank you for writing these down. Thank you for preserving them because I recognize like I am learning so much from the work she has done. And so I recognize the importance of writing down your thoughts, writing down your learnings, not just the facts of I was born here, I did this, but kind of what did I learn? How did I grow? How did I change? And what came of that? And so as I was sitting here, I was kind of looking through, like, this is my mom, but this is the book she compiled so many of these
Incredible.
for our family. And I could go on and on. Like, here's my dad. He did his and he wrote, a message in it. And, it's just his whole life story. And so I have these for ancestors that go back to 1799.
Incredible.
And so I think and I would sit with my mom. I have a background in graphic design, and I would sit with her and work on um, formatting these and recording them. And so I think for many, many years, I saw the importance of doing this. So my platform is basically that of record your stories, record your memories, maybe not even for your own children. Like I look at my children, I'm like, I don't think they'll care, but I recognize that generations from now, someone's going to live in a completely different world and they will want to look back and say, what did you learn? And because I've done it myself.
Right.
And I still, in my mind, have stories of my great, great, great grandparents who walked across America, who walked across plains. And I think, thank you for doing that.
Right.
And if you could do that, I can do this. And so that's where I just truly have a passion of making sure people know.
Just out of curiosity, because I'm kind of cut from the same cloth, but in a different way.
Yeah.
Literally starting with my wedding and then through all of my children's births and to present day, I literally record every aspect of their life.
Oh,
So like all of their sporting events, their birthdays, holidays, Christmases, you name it. And, I have this behemoth of a server. It's, I won't even tell you how many terabytes it is. And my wife though, she's like, what are you going to do with all that? And I'm like, I want to give it to each of them, when they get married or they get older. Is that kind of like what you're talking about in a way,
absolutely.
but
So
on a more professional level?
yes, what I've done with my business, with my graphic design experience, is I do recognize just taking the highlights. And so I have these amazing books that are 300 pages of stories. And I thought, how can I take my mom's legacy and do it in a way that captures the essence of this person in 3 to 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and create the highlights.
Mm.
And then if people want to know more, great. Here's a book about their life. Here's a book about their story. But what I like to do is just, and I think what I really enjoy doing is looking at people's photos and just recognizing, oh, this is a neat moment. This is a powerful moment. This is the important part of this. And what I do in my videos is just kind of highlight little texts throughout the video. So it's not just a slideshow, but more, I do bring in these were their parents. This is when they were born. I do think that genealogy piece is important in recording our story because we're so connected
Yeah.
through the generations. And I think these stories matter. And I think I love what you've done of taking your kids they will be so grateful
Yeah.
someday. And I think that's what I do is so I just maybe take all those terabytes, those gigabytes of information and compile it down to
That's cool. Can
just a
you,
short version.
Before we go on though, somebody that's listening or watching this now or, years in the future, what if their loved one's already passed? Like, because like your books you're showing of your dad and your mom, I mean, those are many, many pages. Was that done, obviously when they were still with you or, okay, are you able to still compile that big of a book if a person's already passed?
I absolutely. And I think it takes a little research of going in, and there's so many good sites, Family Search, Ancestry, where a lot of people post stories. And that's where I found stories I didn't even know existed. And so I would encourage people to go just read. And so then you can take the information if you have a parent that's passed, a grandparent that's passed, take the information and just compile. That's what my mom did for our ancestors who had been gone many, many years, is just compiled the information and brought it to light. And I just think they didn't have the platform, they didn't have the resources. And a lot of the histories we have are just these handwritten 3 by 5 cards that, probably they hoped,
Yeah.
here's my life. And even that matters. And that's what I think I have found in caregiving as people get so overwhelmed. Like, where do I start? How do I start? It's too overwhelming. And I think that's where I like to come in and just say, start where you are.
Mhm.
And, a lot of people say, I don't have photos, I don't have pictures of people in my past. And I say, okay, do you have a picture of your mother? One.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot, which I find in my work, to complete a really beautiful history. It just takes a few photos and a little bit of information, and then you've got it preserved.
Right. Absolutely. Let's go and kind of talk about the process now. You're talking about the features and the capabilities, but walk us through what it looks like when somebody does work with you to capture their story or their loved one's story, from really that first conversation to the final product of the video.
Yeah, this is my favorite part is I really do love sitting one-on-one with people and getting to the heart of their story. And so I do have my website that they can reach out to me on. And really it's such a personal process. I don't want this to be just, okay, do this, upload this. I really want to sit with you and say, let's talk about this and let's, work through your story and what do you want to highlight and what do you want to bring to light? And I, so people contact me and we can do it either by Zoom or I would even fly out to meet with people. I really think it's that important to preserve these stories for the future generations. And so I sit with people for hours and
Wow.
I will and we will go through photos and I will say, who is this in this photo? And where were you in this photo? And then let's talk about it. Let's talk about the story and write things down and I'll record people sharing them and then I'll take all those bits and complete, their video. And create a meaningful, that's what I really want to do is create the essence of someone.
Right.
It's not just a video. It's let's really capture who you were and think about 50 years down the road, who's going to be watching this. And that's what I love about this is I have these amazing books, but we have to print them all and send them all to people. And I think with my videos, I'm just like, take it and share it with whomever you want.
So do people have the option then if they want a book or if they want the video or both or?
Yeah, I don't necessarily write your life story. So that's what I do want to be clear about. I could probably help you work on that. And what I do offer is the video, and I also offer a PDF version of some questions that I have on my website. So I have a list of questions that go through childhood, that go through adulthood, children, occupation, and then meaningful life questions of what do you want to be remembered for? What did you learn in this world? I think those are really valuable questions for people in the future. And so I create a PDF version that goes along with the video, your answers to the questions. And that way you have a hard copy. So if you did nothing else, you didn't write a life book, you didn't write a life history, at least you have the answers to these questions in a format that you can share with
Okay.
family.
No, that's remarkable, Stephanie. You mentioned something earlier too. You often are working with people, and there can be vulnerable moments in their life stories. How do you create a sense of comfort and trust so that they do feel safe, sharing those moments with you?
Yeah, that has been something I've learned how to do over the years, but I do think it's just really sitting with someone in their moment. I do. I think it's not just and I hear a lot of that, like, I don't know how to ask my parent, their life story. This feels uncomfortable. This feels awkward. And I just think, just sit or maybe pull out a photo album.
Yeah.
And that's typically what I do. I think in my years of caregiving, I think you know very well, you walk into someone's home and you kind of look around and think, okay, what can we connect on? And a lot of times they're photo albums, and I'll just pull them out and say, "Hey, tell me about this," or "Who is this?" And I think those conversations are priceless. And people want to talk about their story. I think there is, you're not quite sure how to broach it, and you're it does feel awkward for a lot of people, I have found. But
Yeah.
I think truly when you sit with someone and just want to know and take the time to listen and genuinely listen and ask questions and not just move on, but just really get to the depth of that particular story or that particular photo. I think that's what I've found over the years. And I have had the most amazing conversations with people truly who have changed my life. It
Really?
changes your life when you sit with someone and you say, "What do you know about this world that I don't?"
I want to, that's a great segue because I was just about to ask you, excuse me, what is something that you have learned about life from these stories you've helped to preserve? Any that really
Oh,
stand out?
so many things, Lance. I can't, I'm like, where do I even begin? I know, and I will try not to cry through this part of the segment, but just the best people, truly, who have shown me just they're hard learnings, and I think you see some people at vulnerable moments of, people who have gone through strokes, people who are going through dementia, people, and it's just when you sit with them and you just learn and you watch, you visually see how hard they're working
Mm.
to live a full life and after they've been diagnosed with these hard things. And I think I'm just coming off a tough situation yesterday where someone was diagnosed, they were put on hospice, and someone very dear to me. And I think, okay, here we are, you know, and what are we going to do moving forward with this information? And I will be with her, and I am her caregiver for the next little while. And I think these stories, I have met incredible people who were just pioneers in this world who early on, I think of someone I was with for 2 years, and she was, a realtor back in the day where it was only a men's kind of field. And she said, "I would make grown men cry at the table," because she was strong. And she said, and she would tell me, she would say, "Stephanie, take up space in this world.
Mm.
Stand up for what you believe. Don't back down." And I think at a point in my life where I wasn't quite sure how to do that, it was people like her who at 93 was saying, "This is what I've learned and stay strong." So I have so many of those people in my life. And I think that's where it really came to be of just how do I share these stories and help other people because they're brilliant. They're brilliant people.
Yeah. And you're helping to share their brilliance with everyone.
I hope so.
No,
For families that are watching or listening to this, who want to really start recording their stories or memories of their loved ones, what advice would you give them to really start the process, and what is the right way to start it also?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it really is just start where you are.
mm,
Just don't make it this big deal of, okay, now we're going to sit and we're going to record your life story. Just start talking. And I think that's what I tell my kids. That's what I tell other people is pick up the phone and call your grandfather, pick up the phone and just talk and say, "What was your experience with this when mom and dad moved here? How did you feel?" Just really simple questions that you maybe have on your heart or on your mind, but just start the conversations. And I think once you do, it's really easy to keep the flow going. But I think it is that curiosity, that understanding. And I think sitting here now, I didn't even do this with my own mother. And we were sitting, working side by side doing this. And I just didn't even think. And that's one of my regrets of, why didn't I sit and turn to her and say, "Tell me about your experience with polio and being in an iron lung and being told you would never walk again and being diagnosed with post-polio at my age now
Yeah.
and having just a few years left to live, and I think, what was that like? And I wish I would have asked those questions. I wish I would have just turned to her and say, tell me about that. And I didn't. Thankfully, I have her story where now I can read through and see her experience through that time. But what I wouldn't give to just say, can we talk about that?
Yeah.
And I think that's what I would highly recommend to anyone of just no matter how uncomfortable or awkward it may feel in the beginning, just talk. And I think once you do, you'll realize they really want to talk to you about it. And I think sometimes we build these barriers in our family dynamics that are hard to overcome sometimes. But I think if you can just let that guard down and start talking to each other, that's where it all starts.
Yeah, no, that's great advice. Great advice. You know, we're kind of again from the same cloth, Stephanie. We talk about giving voice to the voiceless, which for me oftentimes is family caregivers because they do feel alone, they feel isolated. Sometimes their social circle hasn't gone through anything like that, so they can't truly understand in the way that someone that has gone through it can relate to. But you also talk about giving people a voice who never had one, like, our ancestors or those who have gone ahead before they had a chance to share their story. What does that mean to you, and how can storytelling really help to honor those who did come before us?
Oh, I love this question. I do. I have really gotten into genealogy and just because I think I have a family history of doing that. And I have a family history of we recorded stories. That was a very important part of our lives. And so from very early on, this is what my family did. And so I often think about, what would they think right now, seeing their life story on a platform in 2025 where they couldn't even fathom what this world would have been like. And we live in a world that I think is increasingly becoming harder and harder to discern what is truth, what is right, and I think sometimes in these stories, I find, oh, this is what they knew about the world without distraction. It was just survival, and this is what meant something to me. And so I've really had a good time. It's been a lot of fun getting to know my ancestors as friends of really trying to read between the lines of what would this like. Even with my grandparents, I knew them, I love them dearly, but to understand their story at a level that life gives us. And that's what I found to be so fascinating of just being able to give a voice to these people who didn't have the platform, who truly were the pioneers in this world. They were the ones changing the game. They were the ones working so hard. I come from a line of a lot of farmers,
Mm.
a lot of people who worked on the ground hard. And I think they are the ones who paved the way for me to be sitting here talking about these stories. And I think when we learn to appreciate the past, when we learn to recognize that we sit here because a lot of people worked really hard to get us to that point, then we can move forward and do that for the next generations. And we come from just this long legacy. We carry them forward. And I feel like with my mom, that's what I'm trying to do of she created thousands and thousands of hours. I mean, she was recognized for Ellis Island for extracting names because she worked so hard. That's what she could do.
Incredible.
I think she didn't get the credit she deserved. Nobody really knew quietly what she was doing hour after hour after hour. And I think, okay, mom, why waste all that time? Why just let it go to nothing? Why not extend that? And I think that can go along any line of family lines of how do we extend the legacies of those who worked hard so we could be where we are today?
So, with just sticking with your mom for a moment, Stephanie, did anybody, and I'm assuming so, has anybody archived all of the work she's done, like digitally? Where
Yes, so we have done that digitally. We have uploaded it to the sites, Family Search, all different sites. And I've got the hard drives. I've got her life's work, and she was very organized and did so much for so many people, extracting names and I remember seeing her with microfilms, just sitting there with her magnifying glass, and she would ask me, "Is this an A or is this an E?" And I just thought, oh my gosh, thank you, Mom, for those many hours and how many people's records were saved because you took the time to do that. And I think that's where I want to take the time to do that in a different way.
Yeah.
And so, kind of taking her work and saying, how can I modernize it? How can I bring it forward in this generation that speaks to this generation? Because I want my kids to know these incredible stories. I want people to recognize you are here because of them.
Yeah.
And so that's just a huge passion of mine. And so taking her life's work and moving it forward.
Real quick, I just want to stick here for a minute because as I
I
told you,
love it.
I find it fascinating. What is the oldest ancestor person that either you or your mother had done a book or a video on? How far
Oh
back?
my gosh, you're so sweet. A lot of mine kind of land in 1850. I'm realizing I have photos of that time frame, but as I was kind of getting ready, I'm like, oh, here's 1799, my
Oh,
great, great, great. And then here's her story,
Mm,
you know. And then this book is full of just our progenitors, of all these people and their stories, which my mom has compiled. And I think the last number of years I've just dove in and I said, okay, who are these people? And then those offshoots go on forever. And if you look at the family trees going back to 1500
wow.
and you see these, you're like, seems like hundreds of thousands of people off this one line of
mm,
genealogy. And when you think about all those lives compiled because of these people, and then we continue it on, it's just so connected. So that's kind of what I've seen visually. And then just reading these stories from way back when I've done a few stories on my website of my ancestors who truly, I just think, how did you do it?
yeah.
How did you do it? And I hope someday that I'm able to sit with them and just say, can we talk? Like, what was that thing called life and how the heck did you do it?
Well, and again, just sticking here for another moment.
Yeah.
How are you able to get references and sources for people? Let's say your family, unless they were some notable person in history. Like, how do you go about getting archived information to put their stories together? Like, how do you go about that?
Well, I've gotten a lot on Family Search and on Ancestry and doing that, but a lot of times it's just reaching out to someone in the family you hear about that does genealogy. It's a second cousin. I've got somebody in Wyoming who is an avid genealogist. And so reaching out to her and saying, do you have information on great grandma Brown? Do you have information talking to my dad, talking to my mom? About these ancestors, talking to this summer, I went back east to visit my brother, and I had a cousin, a second cousin there who knew my great grandmother that I had done a lot of research on personally. And I just said, how was she? What was she like? What was her personality? And reaching out to people who may know these people, whether it's a friend, a child, and and it seems like a lot of work, but once you kind of start going down that rabbit hole, it's not, it's fun. It's fun it's like a puzzle and you can spend hours. Trust me. I'm like,
Oh, I'm
okay.
sure. Yeah.
I don't
Put
doubt
it
that.
down.
Well, I guess I'm also curious though, if let's say somebody watching or listening to this, Stephanie, and they have nothing, they're starting from zero, and maybe they don't have family members that have a family history that they've been archiving and studying and putting together. Like, how would you go about finding out somebody's great great grandfather, who was a farmer in, Tennessee, like being able to tell that person's story. Like how does that happen? How do you put it together?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And there are a lot of professional genealogists out there that can help you track down your family line. I think even if you have a name and a date, which is why in my videos I find it so important to add the parents. And even if I can, I will add a family tree if the information is out there. So I've done a number of stories for people who didn't even know that existed. And so if you go into these websites, you can see your family tree. Someone somewhere did the work and they had no idea that even existed. And so I'm able to show them generations back. And it's been a beautiful experience. So I think really looking into those sites and then professional genealogists if you want help tracking down your family story. But the one thing I say is start with you.
Okay.
If even if there's nowhere else to go and or your parents, you have that information, most people do. And so I think start with where you are. That's kind of my phrase I use with everyone. Start where you are. And even if it's a photo of you, one photo, you say, here's who I am, here's my birthday, here's where I was born. And then it starts from there. And write just a brief history. It doesn't have to be a long book. It doesn't have to be overwhelming. And so many times I saw that as a barrier, as a stopping point for so many people. And that's where I thought, where can I come in and help? Say encourage, let's keep going. Let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. And these stories take their own life. And it's interesting. Some people, like my mom, did seasons. She did spring, summer, winter, fall, or fall, winter. And she went through the seasons of her life. So starting with childhood as spring and summer, kind of her college years. And some people go by where they lived. We moved a lot. And so start with that and say, okay, I was born in San Francisco, California. We moved to here, and then take those pieces and just write about your memories from that time.
Okay.
And so just kind of come up with your own format in your mind of, oh, what would make sense? What would be the easiest way to do this? And so I've seen some really beautiful ways people have just done it. And I think really truly start where you are.
Okay. Great
Start
advice.
with your story.
Stephanie, before we close here, where would you like people to go to learn more about Life Stories with Steph?
Yeah, so I have a website. It's lifestorieswithsteph.com. And there's explanation on how to contact me and how this process works. I also have a blog where I post stories of people who want to share, and then also a lot of my ancestor stories and family tree. I do that digitally. So if anyone wants to do their family tree through a video, I've done a few of those. And just ideas. I also post blog ideas on different ways to preserve these memories. So it's just whether or not you choose to do a story, there's some cool ideas on there.
No, that's incredible.
People do.
Yeah, and you're also on Instagram at Life Stories with Steph. So we encourage everybody to give you a follow and follow along as you're sharing these incredible stories. But in closing, I just want to talk about, what might be in store for Life Stories with Steph in the future, and what you're hoping people will feel or take away from the legacies that you're helping to create.
Oh, thank you for asking. Um, eh, More than anything, I just want people to start with their own story, to start preserving those memories and holding on to those memories. Because I think, as you know, in caregiving, it's hard. We have to say goodbye a lot of times. And I think don't forget these people. Don't forget their legacy, who they are, what they taught you, and hold on to those stories because generations from now, somebody's going to need guidance. Somebody's going to need words of wisdom of hang in there, don't give up. And I think that's what I found in my own ancestor stories that truly helped me at a time in my life where I needed that. help and that guidance. And I think even if you feel like your life is mundane, even if you feel like it's just day to day, my passion lies in just really helping people record those memories because they are valuable, they are important, and we're not given forever
Right.
on this earth.
Yeah. Well, Stephanie Ford, founder of Life Stories with Steph. Show notes, find her website as well as her Instagram. And thank you so much for the work you're doing to help preserve and share these legacies.
Thank you so much, Lance. I appreciate it.
Our pleasure. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Thank you.
There's nothing I love more than preserving the good moments in life, those simple, powerful memories that shape who we are. For me, video storytelling has never been just a hobby. It's a passion, a way to create connection through the generations and honor the stories that matter most. As a caregiver, I've seen firsthand how important it is to carry our stories forward, to remember, to honor, and to share. Because when we do, their memory stays with us, and their legacy continues on for generations to come. I can honestly say that the stories of my ancestors have helped guide me 200 years after they were recorded. How grateful I am that they took the time to preserve them. I would love to help you create something beautiful through the art of video storytelling, something that captures the essence of who you are and the people and pets who have made such a difference in your life. Your story truly matters, more than you will ever know. And who knows, 200 years from now, someone will probably be thanking you for it.
Thank you for joining us today here at All Home Care Matters. All Home Care Matters is here to help families as they navigate these long-term care issues. We invite you to visit us at allhomecarematters.com, where there's a private, secure, fillable form where you can give us feedback, show ideas, or if you have questions. Every form is read and responded to. And remember, you can listen to the show on any of your favorite podcast streaming platforms or watch the show on our official YouTube channel. Just make sure that you hit that subscribe button so that you never miss an episode. We'd also like to say thank you again to Stephanie Ford for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you again here at All Home Care Matters.
Thank you for joining us today. We look forward to you joining us again on another episode of All Home Care Matters. To learn more about the show and to connect with us, visit us at allhomecarematters.com.